Behind the scenes, the light and the flame, designing, producing, creating the name. From the rundown grind to the Emmy stage glory, they shape what we feel. Now tell us your story. Production roles, lights, camera, action. Let's wrap your life with emotion and passion. What's your story?
Hello and welcome into Storyteller from beautiful Beverly Hills. We're ahead of NBA All-Star Week and the town is hustling, bustling. You might hear a fire truck behind us today. You might hear some horns honking, some aggressive driving going on. But we're really excited to welcome in just an absolutely epic guest today on Storyteller. 40-year music career, writer, producer, publisher, just an all-around Grammy-winning artist, 160-plus platinum. But I think the most important thing and the most relevant, cancer survivor. You kick cancer's ass, Bob. Welcome in. Bob Cutarella, everyone.
Thank you. Yeah, kicking cancer's ass, it wasn't easy. But
would you tell me 19 years cancer?
19 years.
Congratulations and
thank you.
Epic work.
I mean, it's the word is scary enough, and there's so much going around, and you don't know if it's caused by the environment. You really don't know. DNA, environment, lifestyle choices. I have friends of mine who drink and smoke. They're 80 years old and never been to a doctor. Like, I don't even understand how that can be. And then I know people dying at 50, you know?
It's just random.
So,
it's just random.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, Bob, we like to start, we call it's the cold open. And what I was thinking was, someone that obviously has made so much music, heard so much music. When you woke up this morning, was there a song that just like happened to pop in your head this morning?
Yes. Oddly enough, I've been listening to a lot of older Philly international music. A friend of mine, one of my mentors, was a guy named Tom Bell. Tom Bell and Linda Creed wrote a lot of hits like Betcha by Golly Wow and You Are Everything and just a ton of hits. And they wrote one song called People Make the World Go Round. Mm. And it's a little odd. It's got a vibe to it. It starts out kind of slow with a set tempo and a vibe. And then it has these different time signatures. And it's just one of those songs, and then when it hits the chorus, it comes back down. And I think about today's music, how a lot of times when you hit a chorus, it isn't that big crescendo like they used to be, but it comes down again. And I think Charlie Puth had that in one of his songs, Attention, I think it was.
Yeah.
So that song's been running through my head for a week because there's an artist that keeps telling me, I got to find one vintage song to work with, one. And that's the song for me in my head. So I woke up this morning, jumped out of bed. Well, I don't really jump out of bed.
Fall?
No,
roll?
I mean, I get close to I crick out of bed. There's a sound that happens, it's a slow move. It's a slow groove.
You make music with the body.
I make music with my body. Yeah. Don't tell that to my friends. Anyway, that's the song that ran through my head.
A little earworm there. That's good. We always ask guests who aren't music guests, like first concert they ever went to. What would that be for you?
You don't want to know. I grew up in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, and then in Queens. When we moved to Queens, they only had a bandstand, a band shell with the German Oompa band. So the first concert that I went to was probably an Oompa concert. It was probably that I remember.
Yeah.
But the first real impact for me was seeing, what's his name? Gene Krupa, the drummer.
Yeah.
Sitting next to him when I was 9 years old while he played. And I just sit there mouth open, kind of. My father's smacking me, shut your mouth. But it was amazing to watch somebody have an impact on an audience that close, be that into what they were doing, but cool as a cucumber. Just cool as a cucumber. So watching Gene Krupa, I became a drummer basically the next day with a pair of wooden spoons and a box,
I love it. That's the best thing to drumming. Anything could be a kid out there. You get
it. Didn't have to buy any of the drums yet. Just drive the parents nuts enough till you buy a kit that at least resembles a sound, other than a box.
So drums were the first passion in music side for you.
Sure.
And then it just kind of blossomed from there.
I had a thing for celebrity. I grew up in the Queens part of the neighborhood. Brian Hyland had a hit called Itsy Bitsy Teeny Weeny Yellow Polka Dot Bikini, right? Which later this guy Lee Procris wrote it. He became one of my writers for some odd reason later on. So life connects you that way.
No kidding.
And then Jay and the Americans and the guy who wrote the hits for them became one of my friends as well. So it kind of weird. But celebrity was the fascinating part, because when you're in a neighborhood that's a blue-collar neighborhood, and most people don't, a lot of people didn't dream. If they did dream, they didn't speak about their dreams, you know? And I've been, ever since I'm a kid, I mean, the sky's the limit. It's always been, you can make this happen. You know, whatever it is, you can make it happen. And so I think that was really important for me to see examples of local guys that can make it happen. And then I could pattern somewhat of a career after it. I didn't really know what it meant.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it meant being a drummer or a singer or writer. I didn't know anything about any of that. That just came later.
So we get into a little segment called Two Truths, No Lies, speaking all true stories here. When did you mention everyone should dream? Is there a career moment when you're like, oh, the dream is happening, I'm living it out now?
Yeah, kind of. Oddly enough, the first record deal we made, which was a dance song, during that period, it was disco and it was the hustle. And my friends and I created something called the Foxytrot Hustle. And because there was a dance company that wanted to teach all these new dances, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. We went in the studio. We went to 80 studios to try to make a deal with the studio, because we didn't have the money to afford to make the record. But we had a band that was amazing, a Long Island band that was a friend of my ex-wife's. And we thought, okay, they can, they'll knock it out of the park if they understand, what to do. And if we understood how to make the record. And just after 80 places, we found a place to do that. And going into the studio for the first time with an arranger, a string section, and never being in the studio before that, and being called the producer, working with a friend of mine. And we was just sitting there, like, we had that shit-eating grin on our faces, like, oh, we made it, we made it, And meanwhile, that evening, we had to go and play a gig that was like 2 hours away, and we were exhausted. And we had a little cassette at that point, and we played the cassette in the club that we played at that night, and everybody was going, oh, that's so cool, and we thought we made it,
Damn.
And that was a defining moment, because I understood that, I play drums. I don't know one note of music, but I've conducted 80-piece orchestras and choirs in my life, and I've I didn't think I could do what I did initially, but I just kept thinking to myself, I want this, so I'm going to find a way to do this.
Damn.
And that's the thing, find a way to do it. Got to find a way. And that was the defining moment for me. And nobody's ever asked me that question, and that's a great question.
Oh, thank you. How old were you when that was?
24.
24.
Yeah.
And you had been at it for
11 years old.
11 years.
9 years old, 11. I'd been gigging since I
Yeah.
was 12, much to my father's dismay, because he had to drive me everywhere because I played drums.
Yeah.
Poor guy was like, but he liked the music and he liked to drink. So any bar I played in, he was right there.
Selfish question. I'm a huge Steve Gadd drummer fan.
Oh,
You played with Steve, or you?
I produced him. I produced some work with him.
Yeah.
I read on the back, and during those days, when you were going to do a session, you could call something called radio registry. All these guys that you read on the back of album covers, the back of album covers had so much info, and you wanted to know who was that was performing on it, and it always popped up Gadd, Gadd. So I said, when we were doing this session, I want to work with Steve Gadd, Called up radio registry. He said, oh, yeah, he's available, double scale, blah, blah, blah. And we had the budget. I was like, book him. And then I threw my drums in the closet and didn't play again for 20 years because he was so good. And I was so not really in tune with knowing everything I know today, obviously. I lost 20 years of playing drums, which, it's a love affair. And Steve said to me one day, he said, "You're an idiot." He said, and I said, "Why?" He said, "Why would you stop playing and doing something you love?" And I said, "Because I'll never be Steve Gadd." And he said, "You shouldn't worry about being Steve Gadd. Andy Newmark's not Steve Gadd, Bernard Purdy's not Steve Gadd. We're all different, He said, "So why don't you just do what you do?" That's where loving what you do is everything in life, because it's just a life lesson. You walk around, love looking at the topiary or this, that, whatever it is. You got to love what you do. And then you can be, I think you can be on a road to happiness.
I think that's great advice, life advice across every career. Because, you grow up idolizing people, right? And you're like, as a drummer, like, oh, I want to be Steve Gadd. And then you're like, well, I can never be Steve Gadd. And it's like, well, just be yourself and go create your own lane in what you love to do.
But that's creating your own lane is the secret in a lot of ways. Like, it's funny because it leads me into something about, I just wrote a book called Mentor, and I spend a lot of time, and I mentioned celebrity to you.
Mm-hmm.
I thought celebrity was the thing. So when I was young, I was like, oh, I'm going to be like Dick Clark. I'm going to be, I'd stand in front of a mirror and try to dance like the dancers, And then I started realizing when I got into business that the people that mentored me, they were the celebrities.
Mm.
And so the mentors had more power in the respect that they shaped and helped shape what my future would be just by encouraging, by being honest. They didn't hold anything back. Your songs are shit. I go, no, they're not shit. Yeah, no, they're shit. And I'd be like, oh. I'd go home and go, my songs are shit. And then I'd have to really, then I'm rethinking the career again.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm better off, serving donuts. I don't know. But it's interesting because all that mentoring shaped a career for me and allowed me to listen, observe, take it all in, ask questions later, and kind of, learn how to carve my own lane out.
Wow, that's amazing. And so you said the book's called Mentor?
Mentor.
And not out yet as of today?
No, because the editor's just taking his sweet time, and I'm afraid to look at these chapters, because it's your life. I'm writing my life, and somebody's going, well, no, you can't put that in your life. And I'm like, no. That was my life. What do you mean I can't put that in my life?
You've got some crazy people that have been in your life. Are they involved in the book at all?
Crazy meaning?
Or like not crazy.
No, I've done crazy people.
You have a lot of crazy people.
No, I played drums for the Mafia.
I mean,
so I put crazy people.
Played drums for the Mafia?
I played drums for the Mafia for 2 years, maybe a little over 2 years.
Where are those gigs taking place? And like
wherever the Mafia club was, that's where the gig was. It's like, it's just wherever it was, and you went.
We had no choice.
No choice. 360 gigs a year straight.
Wow.
You could be sick. You could be dying. You're doing the gig. Okay, I'm doing the gig.
Yeah.
It's either that or they break a leg, and then you're out of the gig. So you do the gig.
Can't drum with no legs.
No. Well, some guys, what's his name? The Def Leppard guy,
that's true.
One arm.
There you go. I stand corrected. But do you typically a book has a foreword or a prologue? Like, do you have anyone helping you write that section of it?
The foreword was Phil Cutarella, who was my business partner, is deceased now, but probably one of the biggest men who was 5 foot high I've ever met in my life. And Phil, he was the head of Virgin America. He was Richard Grant Branson's partner.
No way.
In America. And then the head of Warner Brothers, and then the head of Capitol. And I won my Grammys with him. I've known him for 40 years. I moved out here to work with him on a new company, and then we just became business partners for years. And so he wrote the foreword a couple of years ago.
Really?
Yeah, so, because the book should have been out a while ago, so I got 2 or 3 more lined up, and I'm just like, let's get one out already. Ridiculous, but not easy to find a publisher. And I found a publisher who is a small publisher, but he's good.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Has there ever been like a sliding doors moment that you would think where it's like, I don't know, we mentioned 160 plus platinum records of like something almost didn't make it out, and then it because of something popped up, or nobody wanted to take it, and then it you worked and worked, and it finally got released, and it.
When I owned 1985 or around 85 or 86, around there. I worked as the head of A&R for a label that John Hammond had with Sony. And it was independently financed by the Mafia, oddly enough. And they don't know anything about the music business. So I have a lot of that connection.
It's good to keep the Mafia on your side.
Yeah, but I always say I'm one pinky ring away from being a real made man, if you will. So I started a publishing company out of my living room. The label folded. John Hammond died. 9 years of lawsuits and everything else. And we were involved and I was involved in signing some really great artists, And this lawsuit was wearing me out. But I found 3 writers and signed all 3 writers to this little publishing company. And I had a song called Where Does My Heart Beat Now, which became Celine Dion's first hit, but in America. But I had that song for 2 years. And in the demo, that sounds exactly like the record. This song for 2 years. And I was one of those guys, I was always getting songs recorded when I was at a publishing company. I had a good ear, supposedly. And I was getting all these songs cut. So I believed that this song was going to be a big song for somebody. So I gave it to everybody who had a big voice. Everybody passed on it. Bonnie Tyler passed on it. Laura Branigan passed on it. All these people who could have sung this song. What a perfect song for. And I was pissed off. And then a friend of mine in London, who we had some successes together, he called me up and he says, there's this girl in Canada, and her name's Celine Dion. She's had French hits, but she's 17. We'll see what'll happen here in America. And here's something I'm going to put on that nobody's heard before, probably. And it's just one of these silly things in life. So he made the record. He played it for me. I thought it was great. And Sony Canada owned the masters and owned her. There was a head of Sony Canada International who we had to go to. So Chris Neal, who was the producer, and myself, the publisher, went to see him and said, you guys going to put this record out, And we were all excited, And he goes, I won't mention his name, but it'll just be this simple. He said, average song, average singer. So I was sitting there scratching my head going, okay, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I said, can we bring this to any Sony affiliate since she's signed to Sony? And both of us were very friendly with Don Grierson, the head of Epic Records. And I had a couple of records coming out with him, and Chris had hits with him. So we went 2 floors away. I don't remember if it was up or down. Went 2 floors away. Grierson heard it, said, I love it. I want to put it out. She had no image, so they had a tough time with the lack of image. But the song, we all believed in it, and it became a huge hit. It was the first hit in America for her. And it was one of those songs, when you believe in something, for me anyway, I'm just going to hammer it to death. I mean, I'm just going to fight and fight and fight with it because I grew up in the streets. So you fought for what you wanted, especially if you believed it had some kind of substance to it, not just music, anything, any principle that you believed in.
Wow.
So
a lot of bad takes out there. Average song, average voice for Celine Dion's a pretty tough take.
Needless to say, that gentleman is now selling Mitsubishis. No, I'm being honest. That's what he does. He's a sweet guy. I don't know how. He was a Peter Principle guy. He's the guy that ended up, like, we like this guy. He's cool. He's corporate, give him another haircut. Go ahead. And, and he just kept raising himself in the ranks of corporate record companies. I couldn't stay in a corporate record company. I have too big a mouth. If I didn't believe that they were doing the right thing, like they used to keep me out of when I worked corporate. You don't work in dance music. You don't work in black music. You don't work. Well, what the hell do I do then? Yeah. You do white music. Well, what? No, it's white music. What do I? You're 40 years old. You can't do this. A lot of can't do's. And nobody I've ever met that's been successful has sat and said, oh, yes, I can't. they've always found a way to do something. So for me, I have too big a mouth to be in a corporate
Hey, we
setting,
appreciate
unless
that
they
mouth.
just want to consult. Yeah, lose them as a consultant and keep them out of the meetings.
You got it. You were into though pairing artist with song. That was like a big
That was
part
what
of
I
what
was
you
good at.
did because you had the ear and you knew what's the key to know, like, how would you do that? What was your formula? You don't know.
I
did
played
it.
in bands since I'm a kid. The only thing I can attribute it to, because I sing, and if I sang now, dogs would bark in every neighborhood. So you wouldn't want me to sing. You grow up in playing, so you're instinctively tuned into a verse, a chorus. Oh, it's a good lyric. It's not the melodies. Oh, I love this melody. This is something we had a discussion the other day about, and I'm not trying to get off the point.
No.
The point is,
We'll get there.
well, I don't think there's any formula is
Yeah.
the point. But I was ecstatic when Bad Bunny was performing, for the Super Bowl. I thought, oh, this is great. This is something good we're doing. And the only disconnect I had with it is melody. I didn't feel the melody. And I'm missing that in a lot of music today. And when I hear a song that's really melodic, like a Bruno Mars song or something, I get excited because it's a good song.
Yeah.
Even to do a Lipa songs, or there's a lot of music out there that's really, really good, and you're always searching. There was a guy on the Grammys this year. He wore a blue suit, and he had a ballad that was awesome song, and he had a great voice. But image-wise, I was like, okay, hire him an image consultant for the next round because. So, but there was no formula. There was always instinct. Like I said, I don't play anything but drums.
Yeah.
So with me, I've been an instinctive person who trusts my instincts musically. And Clive Davis gave me one of my first starts. There's a funny story attached. There's a storytelling, right?
It is. Yeah.
So I can give a good story. This is a good story for me. I got a job at, I was up for 3 jobs. Before this, I was using St. Patrick's Cathedral as an office. And then 2 blocks away is the library.
Okay.
And we had phone booths then, so that was where I would connect with people, and I didn't even have the
That
answer.
was the office phone.
Yeah,
the phone
for a little
booth.
while. Then I got an answer phone at home, thank God, But that was my little circle of where I operated out of. And I was up for 3 jobs the same day. Nothing for 2 years, just playing drums for the Mafia. That was it. But then I was up for 3 jobs same day. One was with Billy Joel's wife, Elizabeth. He had just put out The Stranger, and she wanted me to pitch his songs for other people to record when his album had just come out, and he was going to release these songs. Nobody's going to. So I figured that's dead end. I would last a week, gone. And then another one was with a guy named Larry Fogel at April Blackwood, which was Columbia Records Company. And they were, they're fairly big. They were part of Columbia Records before Sony. But Larry, I had a disconnect with him, just personal thing. Just didn't feel him. And then I had this offer at Chapel Music, which was the largest publisher at the time. And they knew me, and I knew the guys that worked there. And so I go for this interview. And while I'm there, I ripped the last pair of nice shoes I had. So now I'm cursing in Italian. I curse in Italian a lot. So I go in for the interview. It's Erwin Schuster was a gentleman's name. And he said to me, this is awkward. He said, I just hired somebody this morning. So I said, excuse me, said, why am I here then? He said, I heard you had a good ear. So I said, okay, so now I got to go through the motions, knowing that I really like the people there and everything. So he gave me what's called a Clive Davis litmus test. He played me 8 cassettes of songs, and every time when he finished, he said, who do you think would be good for it? And I just guessed correctly on all 8 had just been recorded by. So he looked at me, and then he threw the cassette at me, and I was like, what? So he said, well, what am I supposed to do? I said, well, you're the boss here. I'm here for the interview. Anyway, when I got home, and I was still cursing about the shoe, on my answer phone home, I had, whatchamacallit, what do you want for lunch tomorrow? And that was really the start of a career, a
Wow.
solid career. And so Clive Davis, I had been doing really well pitching music. I get there at 8 in the morning. I stay until 1 in the morning. I'm pitching 40, 50 cassettes a day with songs. I'm learning the catalog, the writers, but I'm getting no results. Finally, I get one result on a Shaka Khan record, went gold, nice. Then another one in Europe went gold. And I'm going, yeah, but I'm going for the big gain here. And Clive's liking what I send him, but nothing. Then my boss grabs me one day and he sits me down. He goes, how much coffee do you drink a day? I said, 13, 14 cups. He says, 14 cups of coffee. He says, you're driving all the girls here nuts. He says, you're asking them to do this all the time. He said, and you never leave the office. Get out of here. So I thought I got fired. I said, well, boss, I really need the job. He said, I'm not firing you. He said, you're the hardest worker we have. He said, I'm not firing you. So he says, just go take a walk. Go to the park. Do anything. And we were right by Central Park. So I said, okay. And I grabbed 2 cassettes with me. I determined to not leave the office without a cassette in hand, just in case an opportunity came up. I walked out of the building right into Clive Davis. And I said, oh, Clive, I know you're looking for songs for a new group called Air Supply. I gave him Every Woman in the World and another song. That became a big record for them, their second single. And then I gave him I Made It Through the Rain by Mary Manilow. That became his comeback song. But we had to cut him in as the writer and this and that. So, but it was politics. And that gave me a big raise. They gave me another promotion, Just when I love songs. I love songwriters. I love writing. I write it every single day, something.
Music or...
I write a lyric almost every day. I just write thoughts. Like I teach songwriting for the Songwriters Hall of Fame for years.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And when I do that, you don't have to write a whole song. Just come with the genesis of something. Just something that could spark and trigger somebody's imagination, And then approach it that way, tell the story.
Oftentimes in like sports, sometimes when someone hits on like an athlete that wasn't expected to, be much of anything, and then they become something, that's their... Did you ever have like I don't know, what maybe somebody thought was like a long shot of like a pairing, or you felt like you heard something that no one else was hearing? That I know the Celine Dion story was pretty special, but any others that come to mind?
I don't know, because I take shots, I take off the wall kind of shot.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't a hit, but it won me 2 Grammys and nominated for 9 Grammys with it. But I I like to try to think out of the box. And again, my instincts were all going on. I had a dream when I was, it took me 10 years to get Les Paul to make a record. Most people don't know that Les Paul didn't just invent the electric guitar, which really changed the whole scope of our industry, really, because now all of a sudden that instrument could be louder than a full orchestra.
Right.
So it changed everything. He also invented multi-track recording, which most people don't know. And without multi-track recording, we'd be sitting listening to mono at a Star Wars, film and going, no impact, And then he invented reverb. So Les was a really, really interesting character for me. So I'd go see him play every week, Fat Tuesdays, the Iridium, whatever. And I used to say, Les, we got to make a record. You're almost 90 years old, I did 10 years of this. I just go see him constantly, 10 years. I'm like I said, when I'm determined to do something, 10 years just flew by. But I said, you got to make a record. I make my own records. I don't. And I brought every executive down I could think of. Every executive. Finally, he connected with Phil Cutarella, and Phil allowed me to make the record. And not the record Les wanted to make, but the off-the-wall part was everything fell into place the way it was supposed to, for whatever that synchronistic thing that happens in life from time to time, where you go, wow, it's just magic, I had a dream one night, totally just out of nowhere, about Sam Cooke. I love Sam Cooke, right? I dream about Sam Cooke. 2 songs I never heard in my life. Never, ever heard in my life. I woke up, wrote down the titles, and then I went and did research on the 2 songs. Good songs. I called up Alan Klein, who was the manager of Sam Cooke's estate and used to manage the Beatles and the Stones. And I said, listen, I've got this idea. I'm making this Les Paul record for Capitol. I said, they're putting a big push behind it. It's 90th birthday. I said, would you give me Sam's vocals, his original vocals, if I give you Jeff Beck on one track and if I give you Eric Clapton on another? And he looked at me, he said, come in the office. So I went to the office. He said, really? What do you think? I said, well, do you have, you got all Sam stuff. Do you have anything with Sam stuff? Sam stuff with Eric Clapton or with Jeff Beck or anybody like that? And he goes, no. So I said, so what do you got to lose? I said, it just enhances his catalog and reintroduces him to a different audience maybe that doesn't know Sam Cooke, He thought it over and he let me do it. He said, but I had to then take the original vocal and find the engineer who recorded the original vocal so that we wouldn't alter any of the sonic proportions of the original vocal, which we did. We found the original guy and he was still alive. And so we used him, to incorporate Sam's vocal into the mix and all. So that was an out-of-the-box thing that was a big surprise. And for me, it was great, to be involved in that.
I love that. Piecing everyone together.
Yeah, and then one other thing on that project was I had been involved years ago with signing our company, brought in a deal from Richard Branson, and I was fairly new, but they always included me in all the deals. They always said, we like your ears, so tell us what you think. And Richard Branson wanted $1 million, and it was a lot of money for a publisher to give in 1979 or 80, whatever it was. And he says, you can have all the bands we have, they're publishing in the States, whenever there's a release in the States or you get a release. And these were all new bands. Police, Culture Club, Human League, ABC, some Phil Collins stuff. So I was involved in signing that deal. So I made friends with Sting a little bit. I was a big fan of his writing. Today, I think he's one of the most brilliant writers. So I had another dream.
You're a dreamer.
I shouldn't dream. I had another dream about Sting singing with Joss Stone, a duet. And I came up with the song, and I called Sting's management up and said, listen, Phil knows Sting really well. He was promoting the Police years ago. And Sting thought it was a great idea. And so we got Sting and Joss Stone together, but then Sting used her as his opening act. So that was like really, really, it was a great thing. I'd go to some of the shows and I was like sitting there going, yeah, that's an off the wall idea, but it worked, That was nice.
I love it. The off the wall stuff. And in the book coming out again, Mentor, so many stories here today. The book's got to be, how many pages are we looking at here?
No, it's not. The book is really
more
not
advice than stories.
Yeah, it's I call them like the 14 greatest hits.
Oh yeah.
Afterwards, things like, you're going to meet the same people on the way up as you're going to meet on the way down, so don't piss people off, Listen, be a good listener, ask questions later. Don't be the smartest one in the room, ever, ever, ever. I never want to be the smartest one in the room, ever. Otherwise, what are you learning?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's more of, and I relate some stories about how I met people and the networking and all. Because you could network then. Nobody had bodyguards. I could walk down the street and see Natalie Cole and say, hey, how are you? She'd give me her number and I could pitch her songs. Today, if you did that, you got 6 people with guns at your head going, don't talk to Natalie, So.
Well, you ran with the Mafia. You don't worry about that.
That's a full season.
That's a full season.
I'm writing a book on it.
Are you really?
I've got a screenplay on it called Familia. And it's about 80% true. Friends of mine said you have to really want to blow it up more. And I'm like, blow it up more? That was enough. I was scared shitless for, 2 years. It's like, You never know when we would hear about hits before somebody died. I would walk in the kitchen and, in the restaurant, wherever we were, and my boss would be on the phone and go, "Oh, Frankie Tony, really? Next Tuesday? All right, yeah." And we'd be playing the funeral. I'm in the car driving home with the boss, and he's going, "You didn't hear nothing, did you?" I said, "What are you talking about now?" "We're playing a funeral next Tuesday, and I'm hearing about the hit on Thursday." It's ridiculous. It was like the most... I mean, you go home at night and you think, am I ever going to get out of this, And I had to take care of this guy's girlfriend, because he's married with kids, but he had a girlfriend who wanted to be in the business. So my job was, during the day, while I was learning the business and producing a record or do whatever I was trying to do, I had to take care of her, which is like because she was very pretty, make sure that nobody's hitting on her, which that's a joke. So, it's just a matter of time between one thing could go wrong. All it would take is one thing. And then this white butt of mine would be running to Massachusetts quicker than,
Dang.
Yeah.
I can't wait for that screenplay.
It's new for me. It's got a couple of really cool twists in it, because at some point I become an informant for the government. So it's got some twists in it.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, the corporate world didn't want your loud mouth, but we appreciate it here at Storyteller. And I mean, just one banger after the next. Appreciate you, and
thanks
you
guys
for jumping on.
No, it's my pleasure. And anytime you need stories, just call me.
Done.
Yeah.
Got him on speed dial now.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.